Hey, we are Ashley and Jayma Mills from The Handmade Home, and we are back with another edition of Coffee Talk.
And for those of you who are just joining in, maybe new to us, we do a lot of client work in and around the Nashville area, but also moved here and began renovating a house. And one of the fun things we found that I personally enjoyed were the dead birds in the pool when we began this process.
We absolutely kind of fell in love with this little 1976 house, and it hadn't been touched in quite a while and came with its own set of challenges. So it was a total rehab renovation, and it's been this great process that we've loved sharing on our site.
Yeah, and so we've done a lot of things from turning 4 rooms into 1 room, which is where we're kind of sitting now, to taking a basement and turning it into a living space. Currently, we're working on an addition on the back side of the house right now.
It's going to be perfect for entertaining, a great new living space for our family, and we've gotten a few questions about it, and we had one question in particular we wanted to address today. Carrie says, I've loved watching you guys transform your home. Are you using an architect to help with the additions and or the reconfiguration you did in the original house? If so, it would be great to read a post about finding and working with one. And if not, how you have figured it all out. We have a weekend home that we plan to make our full-time home in a couple of years when the kids have flown the coop, and it needs some reconfiguration and a small addition. We are pretty big DIYers, but overwhelmed with this challenge of figuring out the best way to do it.
That's a really great question. A lot of stuff in there that maybe we can unpack and kind of help people work through some of this process. So I think the first thing you have to recognize is, who are you as a person? So like maybe if you're Frank Lloyd Wright, it's what your passion is and you want to do it, and so you're not going to have to hire a lot of people. But you may be more concerned about other things in your life and want to hire out some experts. So I think there's a spectrum there that a lot of people fall in, and neither one's right and neither one's wrong. It's just kind of who are you as a person and kind of the know thyself kind of thing.
I think a big part of that is deciding what your vision is going to be, getting those thoughts down on literal pen to paper so that you're communicating that vision to everyone else involved in the project, whether it's your spouse that's going to help you through this project, your family that's going to live there. Make sure that the space is going to have high functionality while also being beautiful. And if you have trouble seeing things visually or communicating them, I think it's important that you have a plan down first, and then you decide who you want to hire to help you accomplish that plan. If you feel like taking it all on, awesome. Again, Frank Lloyd Wright, you can do it. If you're not really sure that you're in your zone or in your strength mode, then you should really take a step back and look at who you need to hire to make that process complete.
I think you have to kind of point out too that a lot of people want to or think you jump straight in with a contractor. But a lot of times contractors don't see an overarching vision for what a space could be. I mean,
sometimes they'll even try to talk you out of what you want to do.
Yeah, they will. And I think that's because, like all of us, we get in ruts about things we've done in the past or have done. So you'll hear a lot of, well, this is what we did at this house kind of thing, but that's not what you want. You want what you want to do at your house, not what was done at another house. So they're helpful, but you may want to bring in a designer, someone like us, an architect even, if it's really structural, but you might want to look at starting at a different place.
Sometimes it can be something based on the codes near you. So for instance, with our addition, we brought in an engineer to look at our plans and see if that was feasible with what we wanted to do in our existing concrete outside before we built a foundation on top of that. So the next question is, once you get the idea down on paper, even if it's a rough sketch of what you want, what needs to happen next?
Well, I think next you're wanting to move in the main question of how involved you want to be in the process. So do you want to be pretty hands-on and act as your own contractor, or do you want to hire someone who's going to manage all these subs and have the resources? And I think resources is a big deal too, because if you don't have the resources, that's a lot of what you're paying a contractor for.
And in a busy place like Nashville, where we live, you're going to spend a lot of your time trying to find the right tile guy, the right trim guy, the right drywall guy, and that can become a struggle on its own. And so it's all about what you really want to take on as far as the scope of your project.
Yeah, and when not even just finding them, I mean, once you find them, staying on top of them to make sure they're going to show up the day they are, or to come back and finish, or all the things go with it. And so in a lot of ways, I think a lot of people are wondering, what am I actually paying a contractor for? Again, the vast majority of what you're paying them for is to manage the project. And so if you want to manage a project, then you may not need one. And so that's something you really have to know. Do I have the time for it? Because that's a big part of what a contractor does. Because really you can talk to the inspector and the people with codes, and they can walk you through what you need to do. So how involved do you want to be? Do you want to be the one doing all that legwork? Or do you want to hire a contractor to do it? And so neither one's right, neither one's wrong. It just depends on who you are as a person and where you are at your station in life.
A lot of where what we do comes into play is having someone from the beginning, a company like us, to hold your hand, guide you through the process, help you pick the right people, and move forward from there. And a lot of people come in and they don't have a vision, or they're nervous about making mistakes, and we're like the friend that comes in and holds your hand and we're like, okay, well, let's start here with this person. Let's draw up these plans here. Oh, all the way down to those knobs don't really look right at the very end. We'll help you keep the right design choices going so that you have a great, functional, beautiful space in the end.
Yeah, and someone who understands the process, because there's a process to doing a project.
Something else that might dictate what direction you take in a renovation is A, the state of the house, B, codes, C, money. It's actually a huge deciding factor in everything that you do. We always say, if you feel like you're making decisions based on fear, it can be a very stressful process. Don't do that. Never make decisions based on fear. Money can be a huge dictator as far as the process that you go through. So if you get a loan, that's going to be a different process than saved funds.
Right.
And the different kind of loan that you get will sometimes dictate who you need to hire immediately so that the bank can work with you on that process.
Yeah, so great point of, how you're paying for this will dictate a lot of it. As far as, and even the type of project, so, our renovation of the main house versus the addition we are doing are even a little bit different because, well, the main house we need to get in and live in. The addition is something we're just kind of adding on to as well, so there's not as much urgency. So urgency can even kind of dictate some of the stuff you're doing, and sometimes urgency dictates you spend more money because you're trying to get in quickly.
So the addition process out back is strictly cash flow for us. That means that we have started it with cash and we intend to keep paying for it with our own cash.
Yeah, we're doing kind of like what they did in the 20s, 30s, 40s, And I say that jokingly because we laid a foundation, or actually we ripped down what was out there in August. We laid a foundation in September, and then it literally set until February, I guess.
That was for a lot of reasons. Some of it was because we didn't want to feel overwhelmed at the moment. Another reason was because we were like, oh, guess what? We don't have to rush through this. We're already in a house.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of different ways to do it. But with this one, getting started, what we knew is, again, back to the vision. What was our vision going to be? So because it was an outdoor, or the space was not there, it was outdoor, we went out and started marking out, well, how big do we want this to be? You can do that in numerous ways, with tape, with flags and stakes, or kind of whatever you want to. From there, we began figuring out with codes, what did we need to do with the codes? And so we had an inspector that we talked to, and we knew kind of what he was going to require. One of those things was the lovely engineer that we paid money to.
We also had a lot of in detail, proportionally correct sketches that we worked with, that we reworked, that we kept moving around until we felt like it was just right, with the window positioning and the sconces that are going to go in, and everything that we knew we wanted included, like a fireplace. So we made sure we had the entire plan in place, which brings us back to the beginning of what exactly we wanted to instigate in this whole new build outside. It's a lot different than renovating a house because sometimes you're working with the existing walls and the puzzle within it and putting it all back together. This is, we're creating our own thing. So this is where we started.
Yeah, and your subcontractors will thank you immensely for those drawings. It makes their life much easier, and it gets things right too. So once we kind of had passed all that inspection stuff on the foundation, all that, it began into hiring some of our subs. So again, we're a little bit more unique, but there's ways you can figure this out, whether it's asking your designer that you've already been working with, because a lot of times those people have rubbed shoulders with a lot of these subcontractors and could recommend someone. Yeah, and so I think kind of wrapping this up, and one thing we didn't mention is having patience in the whole process. Will go a long way. It'll make it a much happier process and probably make the process flow a little better. So getting that design figured out on the front end, like we talked about, and then starting to bring in the people that you need help with, or for jobs that you don't want to do yourself. And that's different for everybody, whether you tackle the whole thing DIY yourself, or you act as your own general contractor, or you just hire out for someone to run the project for you as well, which is an option too.
Yes, I think knowing from the beginning that you're going to have to be a part of a process is going to be very helpful. So we hope that this helped today, give a little bit of perspective as to our process and some of what we recommend as far as figuring this out and what it entails.
So we will see you next time on Coffee Chat.